Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. We'll get started in just a couple minutes.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I don't know if anybody can tell, but my shirt matches my background, which is so cool.
You're getting good with this coordination here and the backgrounds, Laura.
It's a Friday. You got to bring it on a Friday. Hi, Donna. You say hi to me even in the chat. Say hi.
Hey, Laura, is this a 2-hour class?
Yes, who was that?
Christy Stokes.
Hi, Chrissy.
Hi.
Okay, it's 9 o'clock, so I will answer your question. Good morning, everybody. So today, for the Ignite content, they recommended that you do, so Ignite is a class that was created for the entire country, right? Or even the entire world for Keller Williams. And so they gave us a couple of days in the Ignite calendar where we could do market specific training. And so today is one of those days. And so today, I encouraged all 3 offices to come up with whatever they wanted to do for market specific training. So we've been doing Ignite with our 3 offices, with my office, the San Jose Gateway office, with the Campbell Silicon Valley office, and with the Santa Cruz office. So I think today Hi, Allison. I think today I've definitely got people on here from Gateway, and then I've got people from Campbell on here as well, correct?
Yes.
Let's say, okay, great. And so this will be perfect for you guys. So what we're doing today is I'm going to go over the first hour, I'm going to go over Zipform templates with you. And the second hour, we're going to have a San Jose lender from Mary West Credit Union, his name's Creighton, is going to be talking about lending basics. So if you guys are newer agents and you're still learning about loans and different products, Creighton is going to go over that for the second hour. He's going to join our Zoom. And so if I have anybody on here that's from Santa Cruz, that is totally fine as well. You guys probably wouldn't utilize, if you're from Santa Cruz, a lender from San Jose as much. But if all of you guys are on this call or from the San Jose area, Creighton is a great lender, and he's certainly one of the lenders that you guys could get to know and add to your vendor list of people that you're working with. Okay. So Chrissy, does that answer your question then?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. So we're going to start out with talking about Zipforms. And let's see, I need a little bit of audience participation from you guys at this point. How many of you guys are very new to real estate right now? Either type it in the chat or unmute and tell me that you're new.
I'm new, Chrissy.
Okay.
I'm new.
And that was Zach. Hi, Zach. And Allison, I know you're new. Who else?
I'm also new.
Who is that?
This is Kiki or Kristen.
Hi there. Okay, wait, I'm looking at my different. Oh, it's not moving for me. Kiki. Okay, I see you. Thank you. Kiki, are you in the Campbell office?
Yes, I am in the
Okay.
Campbell office.
Okay. So you probably don't have Zipform templates set up yet. And so we're going to talk about that today. And I'm going to help you guys get some templates set up. So I'm going to have to share my screen a couple of times. First thing we're going to do, actually, here's what I need to know first. How many of you have not registered with CAR.org, California Association of Realtors.org? So it's CAR.org. Tell me if you have not registered with them yet. Does that mean everybody has? That is going to make our class go so much better. If you can also, Sam, hi Sam, I see you're new too. Okay, you can also let me know in the chat room if you have not. Right now I can see the chat, but pretty soon I won't be able to. So Allison, maybe I'll ask you to kind of monitor the chat for me if you don't mind. Okay, so if you've registered, that's going to make this go much better. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a document that I've created that I can then send to all of you afterwards. So let me get this one started. Okay, you guys should be able to see this document here that I created to teach this class. And it's, oh good, that moved out of my way. It's required documents on Zipforms for a listing or a purchase file. So you'll see here in this section, I have required documents that I would recommend that you put into a template if you're representing a seller, okay? And then in this form, or this side, I have required forms that I would recommend that you put into a template if you're representing a buyer. And then this actual form, this PDF that I've created, it's 2 pages long. You'll see that. I'm going to go over it right now just quickly, and then we'll go over it in more detail as we spend the hour together. First, I have instructions for you for creating a template. And it says right here, for this to work, you must first have registered with CAR.org. And so that's the most important thing. You guys all should have, during your first few weeks, you should have registered with CAR.org so that you can get into CAR, which is your California Association of Realtors. There's a ton of resources in there. And our forms for doing our transactions are located inside CAR in the Zipforms library. So you have to learn how to use Zipforms, okay? So this is explaining to you what I'm going to show you how to do. And then we're going to go through this. I'm actually going to stop sharing this section, and I'm going to go into CAR and show you guys step by step. And then again, I will have this entire document that I can then email to you guys afterwards so that you can utilize it, okay? And then I wanted to say one other part. Right now on this section, you'll notice that I have Keller Williams San Jose Gateway information and the license number that goes along with Gateway. When we get to that point, if you're from the Campbell office or the Santa Cruz office, I have a different license number for you. And of course, you're going to be putting different information in here as well. Okay, so that just explains where we're going to go today. I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to go to the car site now. Everybody with me so far? Are there any questions before I go any further?
No, you're good so far.
Okay, great. I'm not going too fast. Tell me if I go too fast. Sometimes I do, so please let me know. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and share. I'm pretty sure I'm in the right spot. Hold on just a sec. Let me get in here. So I'm going to go to CAR. So you're going to go to car.org. You'll see it up here. Oh, can you guys all see car.org?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you're going to go to car.org and you should get some sort of screen like this. I tend to click up here on the left where it says California Association of Realtors. If I get in here a lot and I get lost, I just click back here and it takes me to the beginning. And I like to access Zipforms through this circle right here. Okay, so if you've already registered, I'm just going to lower something really quick.
Can't you go into Zipforms just by typing in Zipforms like .com or something like that?
You don't want to, that's a great question. And you do not want to do it that way because Zipforms exists outside of California Association of Realtors. It's its own thing. And if you access it that way, you're not going to have the documents that are legally what we use from the California Association of Realtors. So you want to go into Zipforms through CAR, okay? Because then you will have our legal library that we use, okay?
All right, that makes sense.
Okay, good. Zipforms is a product all in and of its own, and so you want to be accessing it through CAR. So I like to access it this way. You're going to notice up here it says sign in. You can sign in now, or I usually just click here, and if I have not already signed in, look at that. It's going to bring me to a sign in window, and it's going to say, are you new to CAR? If you're new, you need to register first. And registering requires your NRDS number. There's a few steps involved. We're not going to do that today. That's why I said you need to do that on your own. So if you have not registered yet, you can follow along and you'll get my cheat sheet, which was that PDF that I showed you earlier. And I'll send that to you and you can do it later. Okay. And there's probably plenty of agents in your office that can help you as well. So first thing I'm going to do is sign in. And then I just hit the return button. It's going to bring me to a second authentication window. It's validating my membership. So it's saying, okay, you're a valid member. So now you have to click on this yellow button to get into Zipforms. So I'm going to click on that. And now I'm actually inside of Zipforms, and there's a little window that's popped up that's telling me something new. I'm just going to close that for now. It's a bulletin. And I'm inside of the Zipforms library. Okay. So what you're going to see here, I'm just going to show you right now, there's a dashboard. If I click on the dashboard, it shows you all kinds of information. It opens up inside of transactions, which is
Laura.
where, yes.
We're not
Yes.
seeing that.
We're not seeing that.
We're still on our like thank you for using Zipform page.
Huh.
We're not
Okay.
showing the dashboard.
Oh, that's weird. I wonder if I'm going to have to reshare every time. Okay, so thank you for telling me. Let me try this again.
That's weird, Laura, because they can't see it, but I was seeing the dashboard.
All right, let me try again. Huh, maybe it's just a delay in internet connections.
Now it's
Okay.
showing.
Okay, so I'm on dashboard right now. You'll see up here it says dashboard. Typically it opens up in transactions. So usually when you first open, it's going to open. Can you guys see transactions now?
Yes.
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 And what you're going to notice if you're brand new, this is my whole transaction history. It's long because I don't ever delete anything. So this is because I've been a realtor for a very long time. So if you're new, you're not going to have all this. Okay. Just want to let you know that's you closing deals and building transactions. And it's super exciting to have a full library like that. You'll also notice that I have a certain view I'm using. Let me just, I have to move a certain, okay. So over here on the right, there's the little hamburger sandwich thing. You can change your view. You can click on it so that your view changes to just a smaller view. I like the bigger view, what they call the grid view. And so I usually have it open that way just because I can see them better. Okay. So you have different options for view. So today, I just showed you transactions. Today we're going to work on templates. Okay. So that's the third tab over. You guys all still seeing this with me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to click on templates. And did my template window open for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're going to notice that I have a few more templates than you need at this point. I've been in real estate a long time. You're going to notice that I have an REO template. I have some short sale templates here because back in the day when we were doing a bunch of REOs and a bunch of short sales, I decided to create templates for those because there's certain documents that I used over and over and over again that I was like, the whole point in creating a template is so that you start with a basic base of information that you can then pull into each transaction. Okay. So for today, I'm going to be showing you the gateway seller template and the gateway buyer template. These other two templates here are my Santa Cruz templates because I am a realtor in Santa Cruz and I use those templates for Santa Cruz. And then again, these short sale ones, frankly, I could probably delete them because I haven't used them in a long time. This one says 2014 on it. So it's been a long time. So today we're going to work on these two templates. Okay, so for you guys, you're at this part first. What you want to do now is you want to create a new template. So you're going to go to this new plus sign. Everybody see that I'm hovering over that?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to click new. And I'm going to recommend that you start with a listing template first. We'll do listing. So you're going to click on that. And you're going to name it, you can name it Gateway Seller Template. You can name it Silicon Valley or Campbell Seller Template, whatever you want to name it. Give it a name so that you know it's your seller listing template. Okay. You're going to name it that. Now you guys don't necessarily have to be, are you guys trying to do this with me or are you just watching?
Watching.
Just watching.
Okay.
Just watching.
So so you're going to click on that. You're going to name it. And then you're just going to click, you're not going to touch, well, actually you can click residential because it is residential. So you want to click residential and then just leave it at this top button here. Do not automatically apply this template because you're going to apply it on your own. So you don't want it to do it automatically for you. So as long as you have residential clicked and that one, then you can click save and you've named it as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the one I already have created. But what you would do to create yours is you're going to click the new plus sign, sorry, and you're going to create a seller template and a buyer template. Okay, so I'm going to open up my seller one first. And what happens is you'll see that I already have inside of here, I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to go back to the other share real quick because I have to go back and forth on this with you guys. I already have inside my seller template all of these documents that I recommend here. The first one is the list exclusive authorization to sell, which is our listing agreement. And it has a bunch of other forms that automatically open up with it. Then I have market conditions advisory. I have seller instructions to exclude from the multiple listing service, SELM. I have key safe lockbox addendum for whenever I'm selling a property that has a tenant. I keep it in there so I don't forget about this form. Agent visual inspection form, modification of terms form, and then I've also added the coronavirus forms that Mike Sibilia has been training us on. Okay, so all those forms are inside my template already for seller listing, and then my buyer purchase forms are there as well. So I'm gonna stop sharing this and I'm gonna go back to the other. Oops. Okay, whoops, share, here we go. So I've got a cover sheet in there. I've got the residential listing agreement, exclusive authorization to sell. I've got market conditions advisory, seller instructions to exclude from the MLS, key safe lockbox, agent visual inspection, modification of terms, listing agreement for coronavirus addendum, a coronavirus PEAD form, the property entry form, and the notice of unforeseen coronavirus circumstances form. I have all those in there for now. How did I get those in there? That's the question. Okay, over here on the right, you see this blue box. Tell me that you guys can see me hovering over that. I need to hear.
Can see.
You can't see it?
I can see.
Oh, you can.
I
Thank you.
see it too.
Okay, thank you. So, sorry, hold on, I got to turn my phone off. So on all forms, if I click on that box, it pulls up the entire car forms library from A to Z. If I scroll down, you guys, look at this. There's tons of forms in here, okay? And what you'll do from that cheat sheet I'm giving you is you will type in the name of the form. So, and right now it's already got, the ones that I already have loaded are highlighted, okay? So if I typed in residential listing agreement here, residential listing agreement, of course it doesn't come up for me. What did I do wrong? Hold on.
I had to just type in listing, or there it is.
Yeah, so I know why. It's because it's res with a period. So you just typed in listing, Allison?
Yeah, and it popped up.
Yeah, okay. So if you type in listing, sometimes it's just a keyword, you guys. So you type in listing and there it pops up. So when it pops up, all you do is click on it and it will then load it into your template that you're creating. Again, the ones that I already have in there are highlighted in blue. So that's how you guys are going to build it. You're going to find the forms that I'm talking about. You might even, with this one is called the RLA. So if I type in RLA, it also comes up that way. Sometimes they come up with their abbreviation, and sometimes the abbreviation is too common and it won't come up that way. So those are your options, but you can type it into this bar here and it'll pull it up, and then you click on the form and it will load it into your library, okay? So that's how you access the entire library of car forms. So when Zach asked if I can go to Zipforms without going through car, yeah, you can go to Zipforms, but it will have every zip form that is for like the whole United States or whatever. And what you want is you want the car library access. So you need to access it through car, because those are the legal forms that we use in California. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Zach. Let me close this. Uh-oh. Why isn't it closing? There, okay. I clicked over here and it closed. So again, all of my listing forms are inside of here. Now, before I go to the purchase side, the other part that was on my cheat sheet, let me stop share really quick and I'm going to show you the cheat sheet again. Okay, can you guys see the cheat sheet?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate you responding. Thank you.
On the, yeah.
On the second page of the cheat sheet, there is this information. It says listing broker information or selling broker information. That is actually in the cover sheet. And I'm going to show you that part next. So when you fill this information out in your template in the cover sheet one time and save it, you will then not have to fill it out every single time. It will auto-populate. So the cool thing about templates is when you create templates, they then auto-populate for you into your transaction so that you don't have to rewrite everything every time, okay? So what I'm gonna show you now is I'm gonna go back in here.
Laura, I have a quick question.
Yes.
I just pulled up the Avid, and there were many. There was like number 1, number 2, number 3. We use number 4.
No, there's
Oh,
four
there's
of them.
four.
You know why?
Why?
Is
That's
that
my
your question?
Yeah.
So because we typically in residential real estate sell anywhere from 1 to 4 units. So sometimes you might be selling a property that has 1 unit, 2 unit, 3
Got
units, or 4 units, and you're going to need to fill out a different AVID or AVID, however you pronounce it, for each unit.
Okay.
So typically we just use number 1.
1. Okay.
They're the same, but there's 4 of them in case you need to fill 4 different ones out.
Okay. Thank
Great
you.
question. Okay, so let me share again. Okay, so the cover sheet here is where you're going to want to fill information out in your template so that you save it forever and you don't have to re-enter it every single time. So I'm going to open cover sheet. The cover sheet is 4 pages long. All right, tell me that you guys can see the cover sheet.
Yes.
It says transaction cover sheet. Great. This is page 1. You're never going to fill stuff out on page 1. Tell me why. I want to see if this is intuitive for people. Why would you, on a template, not fill information out about buyers or sellers?
Something our client needs to fill out.
No, but
Because
that's,
your buyer and your seller are always going to change.
yes. Thank you, Nairi. Was that Nairi? So
Yes.
every single transaction, you're going to have a different buyer and a different seller. So you would never fill that information out on a template because the template is your baseline, right? Once you create a transaction, then you can go into this cover sheet. You'll pull the template into your transaction, and then you can fill out the individual specific information for each transaction. Okay, does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so page 1 on your template, you're not going to fill anything out. Page 2 is property information. Well, would you agree that that's going to change every single time as well?
Yes.
So that you probably are not going to fill anything out on that one. My escrow, I will tell you this for the listing, I do try to use the same escrow officer every single time. And so I typically put her info. So where it says escrow officer, I'll put Leslie Alvarez. She's my escrow officer in Santa Cruz. And she is, well, escrow company up here too. Oh, sorry, it's the first one. Escrow company. So look at that. There's also a drop-down menu. Because I have filled stuff out in here, it remembers it and it gives me a drop-down. So I usually use Old Republic Title Company. And then I have a certain escrow officer that I use, and it's Leslie Alvarez. And look, there she shows up. So as soon as you start typing information into this library, it remembers it, and it'll give you a drop down. The first time around, if you've never typed something in, and technically I would not put ORTC, I would actually put Old Republic Title Company. So there, it'll add that information, or it'll remember that information so that you don't have to retype it. It'll give you a drop down. The first time around, you won't have a drop down because you're just starting to put information in there. Okay. So for escrow and title, if you have a certain escrow officer that you always use in a certain company, you can absolutely add that information to your template, and then you don't have to add it every time. That would be on page 2. That would be the only thing for me on page 2 that I would put into my template. On page 3, this is where you're going to add your information so that you don't have to keep adding it over and over again. And now, there's 2 different parts here. There's buyer broker information and seller broker information. I am in the listing side of my templates right now, so I would fill out seller broker information because I'm working on seller stuff. This is the listing side, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in the buyer purchase side of my templates, then I'm going to fill out this section. And again, that was on that second page of that cheat sheet for you guys, for you guys to have that information. The other part is you're going to want to put the office's license number here. And for San Jose Gateway, ours is 01484292. Okay, That's that is for Gateway. So 01484292. For Campbell, you guys ready to write it down? It's
Yeah.
01327739. I'll repeat it. 01327739. And for Santa Cruz, if there's anybody on from Santa Cruz, it's 01473789. 01473789. Okay, so that part, obviously we each have a different broker number attached to ours. This one right here is your DRE license number. So I'm not going to put mine in. But you guys don't put mine in, put your own in on this section right here. Okay, all of this information that you see here is my information. So you, for you, those of you who are in the San Jose Gateway office, some of that you're going to do the same, and then you're going to put your own info. If you do not have an office number, so right here it says agent's phone number, just put your cell phone number there, and then where it says cell phone number, put your cell phone number again. You want to put it twice instead of having one of them not filled out, okay? If it's cell phone number twice, just put cell phone number twice, okay? Because there are some lenders who, if they see a blank, they're going to want you to fill it in. And so then they'll send the paperwork back to you. You have to fill it in, send it back to them. So you just want to make sure you don't have a blank. So if you're putting your cell phone number in there twice, that's fine. Okay. Any questions so far on that?
Nope.
Okay. So again, on the buyer side, you're going to fill out this one. It's the exact same information. It's just in a different section. Okay. So that's what you're going to fill in on this side. The other section that you can also fill in is the title information. It's again going to be whatever title and escrow company you're working with. You can put, for example, for me, I've always worked with Old Republic Title Company, so you can put them in there. Escrow and title are the same company in California. Other states, they're different. In our state, they're the same. So whoever you're using for escrow is who you're using for title, okay? The rest of this is all going to remain blank. Okay, that's it. On your cover sheet for your template, those are the only things that you're going to fill in. Okay, so then I'm going to go up here, excuse me, and hit save. And it's going to save the information. I'm just going to go back. Being slow, hold on a sec. Okay, did it take you guys back to my listing template section?
Yes.
Okay, you guys are
Yes.
so again, I was just filling out the cover sheet. The other thing that I like to put in my template is there's a little bit of information that I like to put in the residential listing agreement. So I'm going to open that really quick and show you what I like to put in there. I'm also going to show you inside the residential listing agreement, there's a bunch of forms. So it actually starts with the disclosure for agency relationships form. That's your first form. The second form is the possible representation of more than one buyer and seller form. The third form is the wire fraud electronic funds transfer advisory. Then it gets you to your residential listing agreement form, which is 5 pages long. You'll notice that it says Keller Williams San Jose here because I already had that in my template. So it auto-populated it for me. It does, the couple of things I like to add is I like to add 6% commission here. I put that in automatically, and then if I'm negotiating with my seller, I can actually take a pen and cross that out, or I can change it per transaction too. But in my template, I like to put 6% because that's what I'm striving for to get as a commission. So I put that in my template. And then down here, I put I'm offering out 2.5% to the buyer's agent. So down here in section D, you're going to click the X and you're going to put 2.5%, which is being offered to the brokerage on the other side, or the cooperating brokerage, which is the buyer's agent. Okay. So on page 1 of that, 6% commission is item 3A, and item 3D, you're going to mark X in the X box and 2.5% to the buyer's agent. If you want to put 3% there, you can. Most of us do our best to take a 6% commission. We like to have a little bit more on the seller side of the commission so that we can help pay for staging and that sort of thing. So if you do the math here, if I'm offering out 2.5% on the buyer side, that leaves me with 3.5% on my side so that I can pay for some extra things for the seller, photography, staging, marketing, that sort of thing. It gives me some extra marketing money, okay? And again, if you're negotiating, which is a totally different class, we're not going to do that today. If you're negotiating with your sellers, you're striving for a 6% commission. Sometimes that does get knocked down to 5.5% or 5%. If you get it down to 5.5%, you still have 3% left over on your side to help with marketing. And then you can always make changes to this inside of your transaction, but I like to keep it at 6% in my template. One more page. On the second page, item 5, 5A asks you who your MLS is. You need to type in here MLS Listings Inc. That is our local area MLS. So that would be the other thing that I go ahead and put inside my template so I don't have to rewrite it every time, okay? Other than that, that's the rest of it is going to be different every single time for every transaction that you do. So there's not much more. You'll notice on the page, actually, let me go back to page 5. On page 5, these things auto-populated already because I had them inside of the cover sheet. So they auto-populated into my listing agreement, okay? That's the beauty of creating a cover sheet. It auto-populates things. Okay, so I'm gonna click, actually it's not making me save anything because I didn't do anything new to it. So I'm gonna go to the back button. So again, you'll see here that these are my forms that I have for the listing. And because I put stuff in the cover sheet, it will auto-populate information into all these other forms, okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Great. Same thing. So I'm just going to go back up here to templates and tell me if it's not moving when I move it, when I go to the next. So it should take you back to my templates library.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we're there.
Okay. So I was in listing, same thing for purchase. I'm going to click on that one now. And again, I've got all over here on all forms is where I got all the forms from the library. So if I click on that, the library comes up and you can type in which forms you're looking for. And the ones I already have put in are in blue. Okay. That X is not working. There's a red X up here. It's not working. Oh, there, it worked that time. Otherwise, if it doesn't work for you, you can just hover back over here and click and the library goes away again. So on the purchase side, I've got all the forms. I've got a cover sheet again. I've got the residential purchase agreement, the agent visual inspection that Allison was asking about, and it's number 1. Request for repairs, contingency removal, increased deposit liquidated damages addendum, verification of property condition, and then the coronavirus forms that we need to be adding as well. Now, this coronavirus forms are for right now. Who knows, 6 months from now or a year from now, we may not need them anymore. And so at that point, you could go back into your template if you wanted to, and you could delete those forms, okay? But I added those forms. So there's the coronavirus addendum, the PEAD, and then the NUCC, the Notice of Unforeseen Coronavirus Circumstances form. On the cover sheet on this one, it's the same cover sheet. It's 4 pages. So again, on page 1, it's the buyer seller info. So there should not be anything that you're entering on this one because it changes every single transaction. Page 2 is your property information. And then escrow. So again, if you have an escrow officer and an escrow company you use, you can put Old Republic Title Company. And then I can put my escrow officer, Leslie Alvarez. Okay. So you guys can do that. And then see on the 3rd page where now I'm representing the buyer. So I have put all of my broker information on the buyer one, not the seller one. Okay. So you put that on your cover sheet. Don't forget to add your license numbers. There's a reason why my license numbers aren't in here. I don't need to go into it right now, but you all should have your license numbers in here too. So you're going to have your own individual license number and your brokerage license number there. And then title, again, I can put Old Republic Title Company on this one. And that's it, you guys. That's all you're gonna put on your cover sheet. So I'm gonna click save. And then I'm gonna click the back button. Come on, there we go. And there is, I think, one thing on the residential purchase agreement that I would have you add to your template. It's up to you, it's a personal choice for me, and I'll show you that. I wanna show you also that it, just like the residential listing agreement, the residential purchase agreement has quite a few addendas that go with it. So it starts with the residential agency relationship as the first form. Then it's the PRBS, possible representation of more than one buyer or seller form. Then it's the wire fraud transfer form. And then it's the purchase agreement form, which is currently 10 pages long. In December, it was supposed to turn into 15 pages, and given everything that's been going on this year, the Association of Realtors decided to not do the newest update to this form until 2021. So you guys will get to use this form for a while longer, which is 10 pages, and it's been this this form since 2018. Right there, it says 12/18 was the last time they revised it. So you'll notice that again on this one, Keller Williams San Jose already populated, and my name already populated in there. Because I have that in my cover sheet. The one thing that I do like to add to this form, I'm going to scroll way down. It's on page 9, I think. Yeah, page 9 of 10. I do like to add, and so this is item 31. Item 31 is expiration of offer. I like to add right in here, buyer's agent / Laura Gleason. So you would put buyer's agent. You can just put buyer's agent if you want, or you can put buyer's agent / your name. The reason for that is this, what they're asking for you on item 31 is, it says this offer shall be deemed revoked, and the deposit, if any, shall be returned to the buyer unless the offer is signed by the seller and a copy of the signed offer is personally received by the buyer or the buyer's agent. The seller never gives the copy to the buyer. It always goes to you. So you want to put in there that I always like to just have it in my template that it says buyer's agent / my name. Why do I put both? Here's why. Because let's say I'm on vacation and I have another agent in the office that's helping me while I'm gone. I'm covered if I have both in there, buyer's agent and my name. You can just put buyer's agent if you want. You don't have to put your name, but I like to put that on line 31 or section 31 because inside my template, so that I don't have to remember to write it every single time. That's really, on all 10 pages, that's really the only thing that I add to the actual template, okay? And then you'll notice down here on page 10, where we're signing, all of my information is already in there because I put that in the cover sheet, okay? The last thing on here, there's 2 more forms at the end, Buyer's Inspection Advisory and California Consumer Privacy Act Advisory. By the way, those forms were also in the listing agreement, except it was seller's advisory, and there was the Consumer Privacy Act Advisory was also in the listing agreement. So I forgot to show you guys those. Okay, so if I click save, I didn't change anything, so I don't need to save it. So I'm gonna go back. So again, that's my entire library here for the purchase side, okay? You guys following me so far? Questions? We're gonna
Okay, so
Good
far.
right now.
okay, and I promise, I know you're gonna, the cheat sheet that I've created, here, I'll share that one more time. Right here. This that I've created, I will get it to all of you. You're all registered, so I will email it to all of you today. I have a couple of different meetings today, so bear with me. It might take me the rest of the day to get it to you, but I will send you this PDF, which has all the instructions. Everything we did, we went to car.org, we went to Zipforms, we entered our username and login, we clicked on the templates tab, we clicked on the plus sign to create our templates, we marked the template type as listing or purchase, Then you go to the car library and you add your forms, all these forms up here, what you're going to add. And then you click on the cover sheet to add the information on page 3. So page 3 is this information, which is on the second page. Okay. And hopefully you guys that are from a different brokerage all wrote down your DRE numbers for the brokerage. I will include that in the email that I sent to you. So far we've done everything here. The next thing I want to do is this section right here, okay? So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to show you how to add a template to a transaction now, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? All right, so next, wait, before I even share, I just have to tell you, okay, I didn't create templates. Well, first of all, this whole Zipforms thing wasn't even around when I first started in real estate. I've been in real estate for 20 years and we didn't have Zipforms back then. But at some point then they became digital and we had Zipforms library and we had, when I first started in real estate, we had carbons and we took our listing contracts and our purchase contracts and they were 3 carbons deep and you had to press really hard with a pen to get it to go all through all 3 layers, and then you had to make copies of everything. And then eventually they went digital and we were able to do things online and e-signatures and all that kind of stuff. So that's 20 years for you there. So when we first went digital, I spent a few years rewriting every single time because no one taught me how to create templates. The templates part is really important. It saves you so much time when you actually go to writing offers. If you have those key documents that I recommend in that cheat sheet, if you have those in your template already saved, you have the key documents that you need. It doesn't mean there aren't other documents. You notice that library probably had 200 forms in it. In different transactions, there's going to be different documents that you might need to pull in. But the key ones are in the cheat sheet that I'm recommending. And of course, if you're working with a transaction coordinator or there's people in your office that you're working with, a mentor, they're going to also be helping you with the paperwork as you get used to it, okay? The key documents, though, are what I have on that cheat sheet. So you're going to start with that. It doesn't mean you won't pull other documents individually into a transaction. But in terms of a template, that's a good base. And if you decide personally that you want to add a couple more documents into your template because that's how you want to do it, totally okay. Totally okay to do it that way, okay? The template part, though, is going to save you a lot of time. So now I'm going to show you how to add a template into a transaction. So are you guys seeing me where I'm hovering over transactions right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go back to transactions. And now we're going to create a transaction, okay? Let's see. So we are going to, right here where the plus sign says new, we're going to click on new. And we are going to go ahead and we're going to write an offer, okay? So let's just add this one. And you know what I did not do before we started? Hold on a sec, you guys. I should have had a transaction ready to go. So let me just grab one really quick. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but hold on. I'm actually now going into MLS to get a transaction from my office. Oh, darn it. Okay, let me just pull up. Okay, I'm going to just pull up. Mike Mendenhall has a brand new listing in Campbell on 605 Marathon Drive. So I'm just going to pull that one up and I'm going to write an offer. I'm going to pretend I'm writing an offer on that one. So let me get back in here to what you guys can see. There we go. Oh, stop doing that. Oopsie. Okay, so I'm going to write 605 Marathon Drive, and I'm going to write the I usually do the last name of my buyer. So I'm just making up a buyer right now. My best friend's last name. Actually, I spelled her last name wrong. There, Nelson. Okay, so can you guys see I wrote 605 Marathon Drive and then I wrote Nelson?
Mhm.
Okay, this is a residential purchase. And I'm going to pull my template in. So it's residential purchase. The status is it's active. It's a brand new listing. Right here, I'm going to click on templates and I'm going to pull my buyer purchase template in. Okay. And the other cool thing you can do is I can actually, from the MLS, I can connect the information from that particular listing. So I'm going to click on this thing called MLS Connect. And it's going to ask me, it's taking it from MLS listings, it's residential, it wants the MLS ID number. So let me just grab it really quick on my other window that I have open. Okay. So the MLS ID number is, you have to put the ML, you have to put ML 81788264. That's the ID for that particular listing. And I want the property photo included, so I'm going to click this box and I'm going to click find. It's now going to pull it up from the MLS. It's going to connect it from the MLS, which is what it's doing right now. And look at that, 605 Marathon Drive in Campbell. That's Mike Mendenhall's new listing. There's the MLS ID. And it says, yes, I want to use this listing information because this is the offer that I'm writing on. So I'm going to click that. And it's going to pull that in. So I have now created a file for this offer that I'm writing. It's residential, it's active. I pulled my buyer template into it. And at the very bottom, I'm going to click save. Okay. So if you guys are new at writing offers, I highly recommend you practice this way. So now I'm actually going to go back here to transactions so you can see what happened. It now created a new folder for me, 605 Marathon Drive. My friend's last name is Nelson. And it's created, it didn't actually pull a picture in. You'll notice on some of these other ones that are practiced that I've done, the picture's in there. So I'm going to click, I'm going to open that from here now. And it takes me to my transaction window. If I go to documents, it has all those documents that I already created inside my template are already in there. Now here's the cool thing. Because I used that MLS Connect, check this out. When I go to cover sheet, tell me if you guys are not seeing this. Is everybody seeing when I'm moving?
Yes.
We can
Okay.
see.
So check this out. When I go to cover sheet, it now put the seller's name in and it put all of the property information in about the property that was pulled in from the MLS. So it already did that for me. Okay. And look at that. It put in here Mike Mendenhall's information as the listing agent. It for some reason it didn't put CA for California, so I'll just add that. But it's got all of Mike Mendenhall's info in there. It's got my info, so it auto-populated all that information so that I don't have to type it in now. Okay, so when I go back to actually filling out the purchase agreement, I'm just going to click on that and show you guys. Oh, actually, sorry, let me go back. What you do want to do on the cover sheet though now is you want to add your buyer's information. Okay, so my friend's name is Karen Nelson. And I typically put their name and I put their email address because why do you need an email address?
To contact them?
So that you can send it to them for e-signatures.
Oh yeah.
You
Gotcha.
have to have an email address so that you can e-sign it to them. So if you're going to be using the e-signature or the e-signature that you have available through Zipforms, you need to have an email address. Okay, so I would then typically put her email address in there. Okay, so my buyer's name, if she's buying it with her husband, his name is Scott Pastroni. I put his email address as well. Okay, and then you've got the seller's info. It actually does it backwards, so it put the first name or the last name first. So I'm going to change the order of that and make it be Danny Ing. So that I just changed that. I wouldn't know his email address because he's not my client. And then again, it's got all the other information already in here. So that other than I do need to add my license numbers, which I don't have in here, but you guys should. So it has everything. So if I click save on that now.
And also, Laura?
Yeah.
On the buyer thing, if we check mark that box.
Yeah. Thank you. Tell them what it does, Nairi.
So if you put an X in those boxes, it'll automatically populate where their names, your buyer names, should go.
It'll
So then
populate.
it saves you
Puts
trouble.
an X by their names. Yeah,
Right.
it puts an X. Yeah. Thank you. And that way they know that that's where they're supposed to sign. So actually you could add that to your template too. If you want to check the X's in your template, by all means you can do that. So thank you for that. So I'm going to click save on that, and I'm just going to go back, and I'm going to open the purchase agreement for you really quick so you can see what auto-populated, because that's the cool part of this is now all you're going to have to do is put the specifics of this particular offer into your transaction. So look at that. It's got Karen Nelson's name. It's got Scott Pastroni's name as the buyers. I have to click the X for buyers. It has my info. You scroll down to the next form. It's auto-populated all that information already. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And you scroll down, everybody's names are on there. And then in terms of the purchase agreement, now I'm going to put, okay, well, I'm writing the offer today. So check this out. If I double click, I'm hovering over date prepared. If I double click, today's date comes in. If you only click once, the calendar comes up, you can click a date. But if you double click, it'll click today's date. And then you're going to start filling your offer out. Well, we're going to offer, 1.2 million on this. Honestly, I didn't even look at the price. I don't know what it was listed. Oh, was it like 650? I don't remember. Anyway, you're going to put all your stuff as you're writing an offer. So all the other things, then you would start filling out. Okay. That in terms of filling out and writing an offer, you can ask Allison. I teach a 2-hour class on this. That's a completely different class. So I'm not going to go over that today. But it just shows you all the stuff that gets already auto-populated in here because you have done it on your template. So if I go down here to the very end where you're signing and the other agent's signing, that stuff is already auto-populated. It's pretty cool. So that's the beauty of creating templates, okay? Same thing would happen if I was doing a transaction for a listing. I'm just going to go back here to the transaction button. I would create a new transaction here, new listing, and I would call it 123 Main Street. Last name of my seller is usually how I do it because I want to have their last name. So Nelson again. This is a residential. It's residential. It's active, and I'm going to pull in my seller template this time. You can't, on the listing side, you cannot connect it to the MLS. Why is that?
Because it's not on the market yet.
Yes, good answer. You guys are so smart. So you can't connect it to the MLS because it's not on the MLS yet, because you're taking the listing. You don't have it on the MLS yet, but you can do all these other things. Name it, residential, active, pull in your listing template, and then click save. And it's now created a transaction for you. And if I go back to transaction here, you're going to see where it now shows up in my transactions as 123 Main Street, Nelson. Okay. And again, if I open that and I go here to documents, all of the documents that I created in my template are here. Okay. And then I can start filling those out with the particulars. Again, cover sheet, you can go in there and you can now add your seller information. Whoops, I'm at the very bottom. You can add, this is page 1, you can add your seller's information here. You do have to add transaction information now because it's not on the MLS, so you're gonna have to put the address, the city, the county, the zip code. You wanna put your parcel number in. You can find all of that information if you go to Realist, which is one of the tools we have inside of our MLS, as we have Realist and you can get the parcel info, or you can type it up into the county records and get the parcel information. But you're going to want to put some particulars in here about the property info. You don't know a lot, but you'll know some of it. You won't have an MLS number yet because it isn't on the MLS yet. But you'll put some information about the property in there, and then it's going to have your other information that you've already auto-populated in, okay? So then, actually, let's go back and do it this way. So there, so that's the cover sheet, and then you're going to fill out your forms for this particular listing. If you are very new, to, hey Creighton.
Hey,
If
how you
you're
doing?
very new to filling out forms, then you're going to want to keep practicing. Work with your mentors, pick a property. Like I just picked the brand new listing from our office from Mike Mendenhall. And I just practice writing an offer on it. Pretend you're the buyer and, hey, I love this property. I would like to buy it. And go through the offer as if you're the buyer and what would you want to write in your offer? Okay, practice it that way. Give it to your mentor. Have them look over it and grade it like as if you're in school. They can mark it up and tell you, here's what you did right. Here's what you did wrong. Usually when I'm helping people that way, I'll go to the section and I'll go, tell me why this is wrong, and see if they can figure it out on their own before I explain it to them. So you want to work with your mentors in that way to do that. And I promise you guys, I will send every single one of you the cheat sheet. I'm actually going to share it one more time. Where'd my cheat sheet go? Right here. The section that I just went over was this section right here, which was how to write an offer. So you would go to the transaction tab, you'd click the plus sign, you type in the name of the transaction. I usually type the address and the last name of my client. And then for purchases, you're going to click MLS Connect. There's one more trick to MLS Connect. It will not work unless you have your NRDS number inside of my business, which is in my info in the MLS. I can show you that really quick. And then you're going to apply your template. So you guys want me to show you that part really quick?
Yeah, I was just about to ask you because I've tried to use it and it doesn't work. So
super easy. I'm going to show you guys really quick. Creighton, I'm almost finished.
Sure.
So can you guys see I'm in MLS listings right now? You see 605 Marathon Drive?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the listing that I just pulled in to practice with. That's brand new listing, $695, just went on the market today with Mike Mendenhall. Okay, so I'm in MLS right now. I'm gonna go up here to the Pro tab, because right now I'm actually in Matrix. I'm gonna go in here to Pro, and you're gonna see here where it says My Info. If I click on that, you see there's My Info. Right here on Business Info, you have to put your NRDS number here.
Oh.
So
Okay.
click Edit, put your NRDS number, click Save, and in about 5 minutes, it will then work for you. So the MLS Connect won't work unless that NRDS number is in here. Okay?
That's an easy fix. Thank you.
And that is on my little cheat sheet as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That cheat sheet is an awesome cheat sheet. So I will send it to all of you. And does anybody, before we get started with Creighton, does anybody, look at that, 9:59, I did pretty good. Anybody have any questions for me? Was that helpful?
Hey, Laura.
Yes.
Very
Who
helpful.
is that? Is that Randy?
Yeah, this is Randy.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, hi, how you doing?
Good.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
You mentioned that it went on the market today, but what you got to be careful with is days on market after March 16th.
Oh, you're
it will
right.
show 0 days no matter how many days it's on there.
I forgot. You're right. So it could very well be that that one's been on for a couple of days. Thank you, Randy. Randy's been doing this longer than me, so he probably has even more tricks. Although you and I have both been using Zipforms for the same amount of time because it's only existed for so long. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Laura,
Yes.
I was wondering, with all your transactions, you said you don't like to throw anything away, but if you have something that maybe you listed but it never closed and you really don't have to keep that around, can you get rid of it, or is there a way to get rid of it, or do you not want
Yeah,
to?
I think you can delete them after a while. Personal preference for me, first of all, I have plenty of other things to do with my life than to go in there and delete old transactions. So they're just all in there.
Okay.
And if I do end up selling a property more than once, then I still have that information in there. It's just, I just don't delete them because like I said, I have other things to do. But it's up to you. It's a personal preference.
Okay.
Any other questions? Did anybody, was it helpful?
Yes.
Very helpful.
Okay. And I promise I will send all of you the cheat sheet. And again, if you're not from my office, you're from a different office, reach out to your mentors, to your leaders in your office to ask questions. And the most important thing is to keep practicing. Practice, practice, practice. That's going to make you better at it. Allison, you've written a couple of offers now, and I can get an offer written in 15 minutes. Randy probably as well. He can get an offer done in 15 minutes. Allison, can you get it done in 15 minutes yet?
Probably not.
Okay.
But with all that, it makes it a lot easier with all that template stuff.
Yes, the template was a huge
You
time
don't miss
saver for me.
anything, really.
Yep. It was such a time saver for me when I finally started using templates. And the transaction coordinator who taught me how to do that 10 or so years ago, I still thank her for that because that was really helpful. So again, practice, practice, practice. I'm now going to introduce you to Creighton Galloway. Creighton, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it. Really quick, you guys, just some reminders about using, what are we in? Zoom. I was going to say Zipforms, and that's the wrong Z word. You can always move Creighton to speaker view. And then Creighton, if you're going to be sharing documents, do you know how to click the share thing?
I'm pretty much just going to be talking, so no documents.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, you take it away. Thank you, Creighton.
All right. Thank you. So, Creighton Galloway. I'm a loan consultant with Merrill West Mortgage Company, Merrill West Credit Union. I've been with Merrill West 15 years now, closed over $500 million in loans funded, over 1,000 loans in that time. Other stuff about myself, I've been born and raised in the Bay Area and homeowner. So I understand I'm speaking to a large amount of newer realtors. So what I'm going to do today is give a little bit of a lending 101, tell you a little bit about my process, what a lender looks for, and talk a little bit about what the current environment with COVID has changed. And it's changed quite a bit. I was thinking what I'm going to talk about today. And I thought, a lot of the stuff I've spoken about before, and I thought, should I just go what I spoke about before and then, sprinkle in what's happened with the environment with the COVID changes? And I found that pretty much everything I speak about, COVID has changed something here or there. So I thought what I would do is I would address it first. It's the lending world is definitely changing right now. It's a crazy time, but it's not all doom and gloom. One thing that is great is the rates are amazing right now. 30-year fixed under 5.10 is at 3.25. We're giving jumbo adjustable rates all the way at $1 million is at 3.125 for a 10-1 ARM. So the rates are really strong. So that gives your buyers great buying power to where they were at last year. So they could afford probably, quite a bit more, 10% more of a purchase price than what they were looking at last year, just following the debt ratio, what that's at. So as I said, the market's changing. I'm going to speak about, I speak about, sometimes I'll mention standard guidelines. So when I say standard guidelines, that's loans are sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So all lenders, or mostly all lenders, like myself, we will sell loans to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, which is good. It's a good tool to use loans all the way up to 765K in Santa Clara County. And their guidelines are changing a bit. And not only that, but more so the jumbo loans. Whenever there's a jumbo loan, Merrill West, for instance, is a direct lender. So basically, we can't sell those loans to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, so we have our own guidelines. So a lot of things are changing for lenders, even the big banks. Their direct lending guidelines, what has always been the norm, is drastically changing. For instance, I know some of the big banks, they're no longer doing 20% down. 20% down is optimal, but usually they can go 10% down, up to $1 million, and they're getting rid of that. Some of the big banks I've heard of are not, they're not taking on clients on jumbo loans unless they have $250,000 with them. And these are some of the big players. So things are definitely changing. There's been, I've had some broker buddies call me, and you know, their deal has basically died right before signing because the investor they use has just pulled out of being an investor, or they changed their guidelines, and seeing if it's something that I could save. And I'm not saying brokers are bad. I'm just saying, and they're definitely not, I'm saying that investors are basically changing their guidelines of what they're looking for. Yeah, a lot of, so I guess my takeaway from that would be, one thing, just overall, of course, you want to get your clients pre-approved. I'm going to touch on that in a bit, but I think it's very important that if you do have a client that already is pre-approved, you know, maybe they got approved 1 month or 2 months ago, definitely I would recommend they check in with their lender and just touch base and make sure everything is the same, you know, not only with their guidelines, but, you know, the stock market has definitely taken a hit as well. So it's possible that they've decreased their reserves, and the lender, you know, they might not meet the reserve requirements the lender has now with the drop in the stock market in their portfolio. So it's definitely something I would check. So first step, as I mentioned, you definitely want to get your borrower pre-approved, and obvious reasons for that is you don't want to spend your time showing them houses, whether it's in person or most likely virtually, that time and spending your time showing them houses they aren't approved for. And two, you know, a lot of, on the flip side, you know, people sometimes have a misconception of what lending guidelines are. They may only be approved for 600K because they think 20% down is needed, and they think they will only get approved for a lower amount, when in actuality, you know, go to a lender like myself and see how high they go. So see how high they can stretch their dollars and their loans, you know, before you go out there, see how high you can go, assuming they're comfortable with that. And then also, yeah, get it done sooner than later, because sometimes a buyer will wait till the last second and then say, oh, I need to get pre-approved. And then they pull their credit, and there's stuff on there that could easily be fixed, but it might take a month or two. Or I might have advice on how they could stretch their dollar a little bit more by maybe paying off a debt that may take just a month or two. So it's better to check that out earlier than later. That way, when you are ready, everything's fixed and ready to go. So going through my process. One moment. So yeah, so first step, I'm going to take an application, and it's all, this is all stuff the lender, I don't ever have to meet your borrower. So that's definitely something that people want to know. Like, I could do everything through phone, online, and never meet your borrower. And it's really simple. So first step, they want to take an application. I could take an application over the phone in 5 minutes, or they can go online and fill out an application in 5 minutes, and either scan me all their documents or upload securely or mail to me. So everything can be done by those means. And borrowers will ask you, sometimes borrowers are hesitant to take an application and run their credit. It is definitely something I do need. I do need to run credit in order to officially give them a mortgage application. And I would just say that, one, it's something needed. If they really are interested in getting pre-approved and they are interested in buying a home, it's just something that they have to do. And when I run credit, that credit's going to last for 4 months. We are only going to do one hard pull in those 4 months. So I would encourage them to do that. So the process is quick. I can get a pre-approval to buyers in 1 business day. And Merrill West, I'm going to speak for Merrill West because that's what I know and that's what I speak to. We don't ask for much as far for the standard buyer. If someone's not self-employed and the standard W-2 borrower, the only docs I'm going to ask for is last 2 pay stubs, last 2 years of W-2s, and 2 months of bank investment retirement statements. So I will take a look over all that and same business day and hopefully offer them a pre-approval, and then they're free to go out and make offers and go from there. So let me go a little bit over what I and basically all lenders look for. There's a few categories that are all looked at. So one, we want to look at their credit. Sometimes buyers might think they have to have perfect credit, but that's not true. It really depends on the loan amount and these other categories I mentioned. But for loans up to 510, I can go as low as 620, and above that, jumbo loans. Basically, I can get some. I've gotten people approved as low as 680 on our jumbo loans. 740 is optimal. That's what we prefer to see. If they're under 740, there may be additional hits as far as rate and closing costs, and that's pretty standard among lenders. What they like to see, 740 but less, they could still get approved. Just it might cost them a bit more. 2, we are looking at debt and income ratio. So that's a big thing. That's one of the biggest items a lender does look for. So what is debt to income ratio? And it's funny, it's not a ratio, it's a percentage, but we call it a debt to income ratio. So most lenders want to see a debt to income ratio under 43%. We'll go up 45 on all our loans. Depending on these other categories, sometimes we'll even go to 50. So what does that mean? So just using nice round numbers, let's say someone has an income, a gross income of $10,000. So taking 45% of that brings you to 4,500. So 4,500 is what we would say the borrower could comfortably afford, and we would approve and like that debt ratio. So that's including everything that they cover. That's including the new mortgage, the taxes, insurance on the property they pay monthly, as well as any debts that show up on the credit report. Cars, the minimum payment that shows the car payments, student loans, credit cards. It's not going to show stuff that doesn't show up on the credit cards, doesn't show up on the credit report, like phone bills, utilities, stuff like that. So we like to see a debt ratio of 45%, but I said, like I mentioned, in some scenarios, we'll go up to 50. So this is one of the key ways that lenders differ. Going all the way up to 50, that definitely stretches their dollar more. So it does matter what lender you find, because that could help their purchase price, of course. Employment is the next one. So generally what lenders like to see, they like to see a 2-year history of employment. Hopefully it's all continued history. It is a guideline to see 1 year of continuous employment with no gaps. Now there are exceptions. I don't necessarily always have to see 2 years. For instance, let's say someone's straight out of college and has just started working for a month or 2, and they have a full-time job in the field that they did study, and now we consider that acceptable, even though their employment is very short tenure. That is acceptable and good. I think circling back to what I said about being a direct lender, our jumbo loans and our adjustable rates, and the good thing about direct lenders is we have our discretion to decide and make our decision on what's approved. So we're not at the mercy of Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac guidelines. We follow those to a degree, but we could deviate from that. So that's a big thing among lenders, and that's probably the key thing how lenders differ, is what they will accept, when they're free to use their own discretion on their own portfolio funds, which is a large portion of what borrowers are using. You know, all the jumbo loans can't be sold to Fannie or Freddie Mac. So that's the big difference in lenders. So that comes up with employment. You know, I can't speak to all lenders and what they look for, but generally that's what I just mentioned is what they look for. And I think I should definitely talk about the current environment since I'm on employment, and that's a big question a lot of people have right now. What's going on with COVID-19, and how do we look at employment, and how does standard guidelines, that being Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, what do they look for? So, you know, and unfortunately, a lot of people are losing their jobs, and some are going on forbearance, some are working from home. So standard guidelines, what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac look for is they want to see that they're still earning a paycheck, and that it's the same rate. You know, unfortunately, people that are on furlough, they're not using that income at this time. They want to see that. Of course, when I talk about direct lending guidelines, that could differ from lender to lender, what they're looking for. And yeah, one big thing that Fannie and Freddie are doing, they know the environment is changing so constantly. So usually what they require is me to, right before the loan docs go out, we do one last call to make sure that the borrower is employed. Now, one thing that's changing is they're even doing that at the very last minute, right before the loan funds, asking for final pay stubs, because, you know, unfortunately, people are getting laid off and people are becoming unemployed. So they're going all the way up to the last minute to make sure that people are indeed employed. Next item, moving on to assets. So I collect everyone's savings, investments, checking, retirement. So as far as assets, of course, we want to see the down payment enough for closing, and what lenders look for is to see how much reserves. So standard guidelines, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, they like to see 2 months reserves. And when I say reserves, what does that mean? So that means how much money the borrower is going to have left over once they close. And generally what we look for is not necessarily a dollar amount by itself, but how many months of mortgage payments, PITI, principal, interest, tax, and insurance, do they have left over? So standard guidelines, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac going up to $765K, they like to see just 2 months. So if the mortgage payment, the PITI is $5,000, they just want to see $10,000 will be left over. Now moving into jumbo loans, that's one thing that differs a lot between lenders and what they look for. I know we like to see 6 months, and that could even be in the form of a 401k or IRA to help get those 6 months. And now a lot of lenders differ in what they look for in that regard, what they consider reserves and what they can be used. Some lenders want to see as much as 12 months reserves, which is, you know, very significant, obviously. D. So going, the next item is down payment. You know, 20% isn't needed, but that is optimal. I say that's optimal, and that's usually what kind of the standard, what would be preferred. And that's because if 20% down isn't put, then a lender, and there's some ways around it, but generally they have to get PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. And this is something the borrower pays for. They can pay it all up front at close, or most of the time what borrowers do is they pay it in monthly installments with their mortgage payment. And this is just a fee that protects the lender, because the borrower is, quote unquote, a little bit more at risk because they're not putting 20% down. So it's an extra amount they pay every month because they're not putting 20% down. So obviously it's something they want to avoid. PMI, you know, it's not something the borrower wants, and they don't necessarily have a warm fuzzy feeling about it. They want to avoid it. You know, it's basically just wasted money going to the bank, and that's or the lender, it's something they want to avoid. However, over the years, it has gotten significantly less over the years. So, during the after the '08 crisis, where a lot of people were defaulting, the premiums obviously went up, and it was a lot more expensive. So, just to give you an example, what it looks like, I actually just closed a loan at purchase price $991K, 10% down. So the loan amount was around $891. The borrower did have good credit, over 760, which is definitely something the PMI companies look at. And it was a monthly installment of $119 a month, which is very good to what it was, just looking back 5 years ago. That same scenario, they probably would have been paying $350 a month of PMI. So, and that's another thing to look at when a borrower has to get PMI. The lender has to approve their scenario with the PMI company as well. So it's kind of a second hurdle, and that's something that realtors sometimes, the selling agents sometimes worry about, is when they know there's PMI, they know there's another entity that needs to have their guidelines satisfied. So sometimes it causes some hurdles and problems. So 20% down is optimal, but like I said, you can get PMI. So standard guidelines, you can go as little as 3% down for first-time home buyers, up to 510,000 loan amount, up to 765K. That shoots up to 5% down, and then going above that, you're going into direct lenders and outside of standard underwriting. For us, we are pretty aggressive, where we could do 10% down all the way up to 1.5 million with PMI. And just since I'm touching on PMI, some people will say, the lender's not charging PMI. So that's true. Sometimes you'll put 10% down and there will be no PMI. Really what the lender's doing in these scenarios is they're most likely paying the PMI. So the borrower's probably getting a slightly higher rate, or paying more closing costs, and they're covering that. They're basically increasing the rate to cover the PMI for the borrower. So that's one thing to know. And another kind of way around it is to get an 80-10-10. Basically, the lender would do two loans instead of doing one big loan at 90%. They might do an 80-10-10 loan, basically a standard first loan and then a small second loan at 10% of the purchase price. This interest rate's usually a little bit higher, adjustable to the prime rate. I know ours, for instance, we offer that to help people avoid PMI. And that's at prime plus 2%. So that would be at 5.25% today. So it's basically, borrower has to consider, they want to pay this extra PMI on a monthly basis, or do they want to get an 80-10-10 loan where the second loan is a little bit higher interest rate. But lately, running the numbers, it hasn't always been so. Going the route of paying the PMI, since the PMI has dropped quite a bit, that's usually the best route to go. 1 second. So those are the 6 items we look for. So let's say through the scenario, I look at all that, everything looks good for the borrower, and I give them their pre-approval letter. So from there, you are free to make offers. So let's say you find your house, you and the borrower find the house they want, and you're ready to make offers. So what you want to check, what you want to do is first, obviously, check with the lender. You have to, especially during these times, I would definitely ping them and see, how long it is taking to close. Are they closing 30 days? Can they do it less to maybe make your offer look more attractive? How long are they taking for finance and appraisal contingencies? If you could shorten those amounts, sellers like to see that. So definitely talk to the lender as the realtor, see how long they're taking, and get a feel of how, especially during these times, like I mentioned, how comfortable they are feeling with the whole process. You know, what's changed, if anything, with them. So then you make the offer. Hopefully it's approved and everyone's happy. Actually, I skipped one point. One thing I would do, and this is what I do as a lender, and I would encourage you to do, is as the realtor, ask the lender to call the selling agent and let them know how qualified the borrower is. So especially during these times, you know, there's a lot of anxiety. Like I said, there's investors closing shop, everyone's changing their guidelines. And I could see selling realtors being a little more anxious than normal, worrying about lenders and lender guidelines. So it goes a long way, especially now if you have that lender call the selling agent, you know, let them know everything's moving as normal, appraisals are moving as normal. You know, I like to call and put my name on it and let them know everything's going to be a smooth transaction. And that's something they want to hear. So that's something they want to hear. So hopefully everything gets approved, you know, buyer and seller agree, and you're in contract. So what happens from there? So from there, borrower is going to call the lender and say, great news, I'm in contract. We have 30 days to close. We'll just say that's a scenario, 10 days to remove finance contingencies. And just from there, I officially lock in the rate. And then I order the appraisal. So the appraiser is going to go out there. So from all appraisals are pretty much moving just as normal. I'm getting appraisals pretty much at the same timeline. I'm getting them back in 8 days. And if I really rushed it, I can get back in 5 or 6 days if we needed to. So appraisers are still going out there just as they normally would. They prefer the house is vacant, and they're obviously being careful while they attend these houses, wearing masks, etc. But everything's going normal as far as appraisals and appraisals timeline. So that's great news. So I'm going to order the appraisal, and good news is, you know, appraisals, I've seen everything pretty much come in at value recently. I haven't had a problem at all with purchases not coming in value, which is good. So what does it mean if the property doesn't come in at value? So what does that mean for the borrower? So let's say in this scenario, someone buys at 1 million. They decided they want to put 20% down. Appraisal comes back at 950. So in this scenario, probably the best thing, you probably already know this, but probably what would happen is if it came 50K short, I would encourage the realtor to, you know, talk to the selling realtor and say, hey, is there anything we can do about this? This came in 50K short. Can we move the purchase price to 950K, or can we come to an agreement a little bit closer to 950? And hopefully you can. But if they don't, then, you know, assuming you have appraisal contingency in the contract, you could walk away from it, or option 3, the buyer could just decide to make up the difference. So let's say it came in at 950K, 80% of that, you're looking at 760K. So originally the borrower was thinking of 20% down for a loan amount of 800K on $1 million. So to make up that difference, they would have to pay it down from $1 million to 760. So putting 740 to make up that lower appraisal. So that's what happens in regards to the appraisal. And then besides getting the appraisal, I'm going to collect the borrowers all their most recent documents. You know, when I originally wrote this pre-approval, it might have been a month ago, might have been 2 months ago, or 3 months ago. Generally, the approvals last for 4 months. So I collect all their recent documents, pay stubs, bank statements, and I show that to the underwriter to basically double check everything makes good. Everything looks good. So circling back to that, and the underwriter is basically double checking my work as the lender that I didn't miss anything. So one thing that might be good, or is good considering that, is when you do the pre-approval, I would ask the lender, hey, is this been fully underwritten by an underwriter? Because it's not really, I could just write a pre-approval and not have it double checked. Lenders can. So knowing that an underwriter has looked at it, that is a good thing to know, and it makes you feel a little more secure about the lending happening, and there not being hiccups and something that might have been missed by the lender during their initial review. So going back to the process, the underwriter reviews the appraisal, looks at all the documents, double checks everything, and looks at the preliminary title report, make sure there's no problems with title, and then the loan's approved. So then at that time, the underwriter will tell me, okay, everything's looking good. At that time, me, the lender, would give you the realtor and the borrower the good news. Okay, we're all approved. You're good to move your financing contingencies, assuming you had them. So then everything's moving along from there. I get the docs out to title. They sign the documents at title. And one question that comes up with the current atmosphere is what's going on with notary. So, I understand in Santa Clara County, we can't do e-signing on the whole packet of loan documents. So, or title documents, or, the whole packet. So, they do have to sign with the notary. Notaries can go to people's homes at their convenience, and that is something that does have to happen. I know there's some hesitation with that, but at this time, it looks like that's just the way it is. It's something that has to be done here in Santa Clara County. So moving on from there, they sign, title informs of what's needed to close, collects the funds to close, and the loan funds. So that is the whole process of what I, the lender, look for in the process of and the process itself of getting borrowers pre-approved. Let's see, what else do I want to touch on here? Oh, yeah. So what I would say, one thing I would highly encourage, especially at this time, is know a lender that you trust, or have a couple lenders that you trust that you can talk to. And just in the normal world of being a realtor, you're gonna face the curveballs that come with it, where unfortunately it's gonna happen. A lender's gonna drop a ball. They're gonna miss something, and you might be left scrambling trying to find a different lender, or getting them approved again. So for instance, let's say you're all the way through the contract, and then let's say someone's stock portfolio has dropped a bit, and now they only have 4 months reserves or 3 months reserves instead of this lender's needed 6, and they just flat out won't approve the file anymore. So you want to have someone that you can call a lender and say, hey, I got this jumbo loan, 20% down on $1 million. Borrower only has 3 months reserves. Is that something that can be done? And if you have a lender that's good, they'll say, yeah, we can do it, or they, maybe they know someone that can refer them. So you want to be there. It's going to make you look good if you could save the day and find a lender who could close and hopefully close quickly to save the deal. I think now you're going to see those curveballs a little more than usual, just with what's going on in the world and what's going on with lenders, changing their guidelines quite frequently lately. So that's definitely something I would encourage. One other interesting thing that's that's changing is for self-employed borrowers or borrowers that use rental income. What I do or what lenders do in that scenario is they look at people's tax returns and to document that income. So one thing that has changed that's worth mentioning is whenever borrowers submit this documentation, I can't go solely on what I see. I also have to verify from the IRS what is verify the taxes they gave me are reality. So I get a transcript from IRS usually to verify what they gave me. Unfortunately, as of last week, their IRS isn't giving out transcripts. They're just too boggled down with everything and are not providing that. So it's lender. So it's interesting how we're handling that. Pretty much it's a point of discretion of the lender what they're doing. So I know what we're doing is we're allowing the borrower, they can pull their personal transcripts from irs.gov, and we're okay with that. But that only works for personal 1040s. If someone has 1120s, 1065s, they can't get that from irs.gov. So I could see a lot of lenders having an issue with that, not being able to verify the tax transcripts. So that's definitely something to be something to look out for with the current environment. So yeah, I think that covers it. Are there any questions for me?
No, I don't
Hey.
have any questions. Go ahead, Randy. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, hey, Creighton,
Hey.
I'm not sure how many new agents are on this call, but I know there are some.
Yeah.
Maybe explain some of the lingo, the lender lingo.
Sure.
Like, what does it mean when they hear LECD, LTV, CLTV, CLA, what portfolio means, DTI, and all the stuff that maybe they are not familiar with yet?
Sure. Yeah, you bet. So mentioning some of those items. So one is LE. So LE is it stands for it doesn't work out, but it's basically the initial disclosures. So as the lender, when I lock in a borrower's rate, I send out initial disclosures. And initial disclosures have come a long way over the years. They used to be very confusing, but in the last few years with what the government has enforced, basically they are very transparent and easy to read. So I, as the lender, I give them initial disclosures so they have a clear idea what they're looking at: rate, loan amount, what the closing cost charges are, and those have to be constant. I can't vary from those on lender items. So that's what I send out as far as initial disclosures. And when the loan is finally approved, I send out another set of docs called the CD, which stands for closing disclosures. So that's a key thing that you as the realtor, you like to see. So when the lender approves the loan, they say, okay, good news, I approved the loan. A good question to ask is, have you sent out the CD, which is pretty much our official approval of the loan going to the buyer. And that basically just reiterates and concretes pretty much almost exactly what they're going to see at signing or what they expect. So CD, that when you hear CD, closing disclosure, that's always good news. LTV, loan to value. So loan to value means, if you have $1 million property, 800K loan, the loan to value is 80. 800K divided by $1 million, that's the loan to value. So 80 LTV, and 80 LTV is what you want to see if you're looking for 20% down. Another thing is CLTV. CLTV is cumulative loan to value. So if there happens to be two loans out there, like an 80-10-10, you would call in that scenario with the 800K first, a second of 100K. It's the combined first and second. So in this scenario, you'd be looking at 90% CLTV. 80% LTV, that's just the first. CLTV is 90. 80, yeah. So that's what that item is. What other items were there, Randy, that you might have mentioned?
Well, I mean, they may hear, portfolio or direct lending,
Yeah.
DTI, CLA.
Yeah. Yeah. So direct lender, and I touched on that a little bit. So direct lender, Merrill-West is a direct lender, for instance. So that is, we're a direct lender on all our jumbo loans, those loans being over 765K, and all our ARM loans, adjustable rate mortgages. So that's good to mention. A direct lender or portfolio, that's the same thing. If someone's a direct lender and they're using their portfolio, their own credit union's money, in my example, to finance the loan. They're not selling it to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. So yeah, it's important that and then, like I mentioned, that's where the lenders really differ, is them being a direct lender, because they could use their own discretion. So we, for instance, will go up to 50% debt ratio in certain instances. Some lenders allow RSU income, some don't. Some want 12 months reserve, some want 6 months reserve. These are all, things that a direct lender considers, or what they all differ on what they allow. And it's all changing a lot lately. So a direct lender means they're using their own money, same as a portfolio lender. They're using their own funds. PI.
So if they're not using their own funds, that means they have to get approval from somebody else, which can take longer, et cetera, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And, just talking about like agency loans, for instance, everything has to fit in their box. It's very black and white. If that credit score of their minimum is 1 point less than their requirements, there's no haggling around that. It's just a done deal, where a direct lender might be able to say, okay, that's fine. And yeah, speaking about, using a broker as example, sometimes who they broker to, they may use a large pool of investors who they use. And let's say for a certain loan, they decide to use, Wells Fargo. So they need to be in tune on what Wells Fargo's guidelines are,
right?
Which are always changing. So, and I've heard of, these stories I mentioned where they got to the final point and the investor, either closed shop, or isn't working right now, or they changed their guidelines where it closed the deal. So, yeah, it's good for you to ask if the realtor, as the realtor, are you the direct lender? That way, I'm answering, questions on behalf of Merrill-West, and, I might not be, I would know that better than, this investor might have changed this or that, as far as guidelines.
Hey, Creighton, a couple things that are coming to mind for me. One, you guys, is it's really important that you get to know lenders that will answer all your questions as you're new. So everything that Creighton is sharing with you right now, if you're paired up with a lender that's not available to answer questions, probably not the best lender for you to be working with. And also, he mentioned at one point about when you're writing an offer to make sure that the listing agent is calling the lender. Absolutely. If you have a lender, so I'm speaking as a listing agent, if I can't get a hold of that lender, I get really concerned that they're not going to come through for me as a listing agent. And so I call every single lender and ask them if they have a fully underwritten file on the client. And I want to know details, and I want to know that I've got a lender who's willing to talk to me, who's going to pick up the phone and answer questions and get the confidence level that, that they're confident in that borrower. So those things are really important. You're going to pair up with probably a few lenders depending on the needs of your buyers, and you need to make sure that you're pairing up with lenders who are going to answer your questions and are available and are willing Creighton may call the listing agent and introduce himself and say, hey, I'm the lender. This is a great buyer, fully underwritten file, and they're good to go. And just him reaching out as a listing agent, you're that much more confident in that buyer and that contract. So those are really important. Creighton, how much did you, I apologize, I've been popping in and out.
Sure.
Did you talk about the importance of what it means to be underwritten? Did you already cover that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
right.
so yeah, and I basically mentioned, along with the process is, it's a good idea to, when you get the pre-approval as the realtor, ask, has this been fully underwritten?
Yeah.
Because really, I could write a pre-approval letter, if I could do it in my own will. And, if I miss something or a lender missed something, then, you don't want that popping up at the last minute. So it's good to know, an underwriter looked at it, and it just gives everyone a fuzzier feeling about it. And it's way more secure.
And I wanted to also say, you guys that are new on this Zoom meeting, hey, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Actually, that's not true. The one stupid question is the one that remains unasked. So if you're new and you're feeling like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about, ask Creighton questions right now. You have time with him right now, and unmute yourself and ask him questions. And you may have to ask the same question a few times before you really get it, because this is complicated stuff and this is you learning. So you guys should not be afraid to ask questions right now. Anybody?
It's always hard for me to ask questions when I'm out of context. It's like once I get there, then I have all of them. But I mean, everything seemed pretty, you went through the timeline pretty well. Like, it was easy to follow.
Good.
Thank you. Thanks, Allison. Ronald, did you have a question? I thought maybe he unmuted himself. Randy,
I think something that I've learned through the process is also, like, don't hesitate to keep reaching out to the lender. Like, don't feel like, oh my gosh, am I bugging him or her? Am I like being too no, heck no, you got a transaction to make, go through. So keep persistent is what I learned and what someone always told me.
Yeah, I think that's great, and that there are deadlines to meet for everyone, and they need to be aware. I could see lenders, just losing track of time, and if you have a 10-day contingency, you want to be on them and tell them, hey, we got 2 days. What's going on? Is the appraisal in? You'd hate to hear at that moment, oh, the appraisal hasn't answered the call, and you'd be like,
yeah,
what's going on? Come on.
So I always tell agents that you guys are basically the project manager of this transaction, and you have a team, and your lender is part of your team, and it is absolutely okay for you to stay on top of that lender and be checking in with them, making sure that they're moving the pieces forward that are their responsibility. Same with your inspectors, same with everybody. You are the project manager, and so it's your responsibility as the agent to be moving everyone forward and making sure they're getting done what they need to get done, because there are timelines, there are deadlines. So yeah, and Creighton's nodding his head, so I think that he agrees with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ronald, do you have a question?
I was gonna ask, I don't have a question right now, but if I come up with one like in the future, could I email Creighton, or is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Does everyone have my contact, or is it all right for me to give my contact right now?
I put it all in the chat for you, for them already. I put all your info.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm very accessible. I probably work too much, so but you could even, you're welcome to text me. Text me too. I like text. That's quick and easy for me. Or call or email if anything comes up.
Now the number I gave them was 408-363-3464.
That's so that is my office, which does route to my cell phone. I won't get text messages, so I'll give you my cell phone if that's okay.
Okay, what is that? Yeah.
408-410-3200. 4422.
Okay, I put that in 408-410-4422.
Yeah.
I'm putting that into you guys. Oops, there you go. Thank you. Randy,
Thank you.
Randy, did you have other thoughts?
Well, I always like to ask questions that could be helpful for some of the new agents. Creighton did a good job on the last list I gave them. But maybe you can explain what DTI means, how you guys calculate it, and being that you're a direct lender, is there any flexibility if somebody's like right towards the top of their qualifications, if they have
Yeah.
good compensating factors, that is.
Yeah. So debt to income ratio, and it's like I said, it's funny. It's called a ratio, but really it's a percentage. So if the borrower's gross income is let's just say $10,000 a month, that's a nice round number. Usually lenders like to see 43%. We go to 45 all the time. Sometimes we go to 50. So what that means is, let's say 45%, you're at 4,500. That means we're comfortable with a borrower that could afford 4,500, including their new mortgage payment, the tax insurance to pay each month, including what's on the credit report, what their minimum payments are, the car payments, student loans, credit cards, all that. So, loans up to 510, standard agency loans, you could usually get that up to 50. So there is wiggle room there. As far as being a direct lender, we do have wiggle room, and we basically, I could sometimes go up to 50% debt ratio, and that definitely helps, and we're not stuck at 45 either. So, if something goes a little bit over, I could see that happen, especially if we kind of do make sense financing. So whenever I have something that's outside of the box, what I do is I basically present it straight to the VP of lending, who's going to make a decision. And, I think he's logical and makes sense about it. If I say, the debt ratio is a little over 45, he'll approve it, especially if he sees lots of assets, great credit score, strong buyer, are there RSUs? Do they have lots of reserves? These are all things that make sense. So there is wiggle room in that, especially when we're the direct lender. What else? And another thing is, you might find a lender that's creative. Maybe they're at 46%, but they're at a 30-year fix where the rate might be a little higher. So maybe you could save the deal or stretch their dollar further if you move to adjustable rate. I know not everyone's privy to liking adjustable rates. Personally, I like a 10-1 ARM. The rate is significantly better than a 30-year fix, and I think a 10 years is a long time. That means it's fixed for 10 years. So when I say, a 10-1 ARM, for example, that is a 30-year loan, where when I say 10 of the 10-1, that means it's fixed for that 10 years, whatever rate I'm quoting. So for instance, today going up to $1 million, our 30-year fixed, the rate's a little bit higher. It's at 3.625. While our 10-1 ARM is at 3.125. So that difference in interest rate will get the debt ratio lower. And it's considerable savings over that time. So it's something that the borrower wants to look into, whether it makes sense to them and whether they want to go a route of adjustable rate mortgage or not.
What are some signs to look for if you're in a transaction and maybe you're not getting what you need from your lender? Is there some signs to look for where you just feel like, okay, time to jump ship? I mean, you want to know that all up front, but as a new agent, you might be kind of caught up and you don't know what you're doing and you're already halfway through. Yeah.
I think someone that's accessible and is giving you updates. So, it's definitely a concerning point. If you have a 10-day contingency period and, you've been pinging them since, maybe day 3 and it's day 7 now and you're hearing nothing. And, you know, in that case, I would definitely inform the borrower and, you know, see if they could reach them. But if no one's reaching them, then, you know, that it's a point of concern. So I guess, you know, it's kind of late in the game at that point.
Yeah, can I answer that question too? Do you mind?
No, I don't mind. Go ahead.
So if you're already in the contract, it's really hard to start over. And so I'm going to tell you from my experience, and Randy, you can pipe in too. I have a certain handful of lenders, 3 or 4 that are my go-to lenders, depending on the needs of my clients, because I trust them and I know that they're going to come through for me. And typically when I have problems, it's because the buyer went outside of my list, my preferred list, and they picked somebody that they found online or that's going to give them this amazing BS rate. And all rates are amazing right now, by the way. And so typically it's somebody that I'm having trouble getting a hold of that's far away. I want a lender who's close by, who has relationships with appraisers who are close by. And so typically the ones that I have trouble with are because they went outside of my box that I created. So again, it's really important for you, Chrissy, and everybody else on the call or on the Zoom to get to know some lenders and really pick some that you're building relationships with that are available to you to answer questions like Creighton's doing today. And once, a buyer really has to commit to a lender and be pre-approved and be ready to go before you even write an offer, so that you don't have to start all over again. You're not going to have a listing agent who's happy with you at all. So you should be noticing signs way ahead of time. And the other thing I would add to that is I want lenders who are going to fully underwrite my clients and are going to take the time to do that. And so if I'm got a lender who's like, oh yeah, I did a 15-minute quick pre-approval on them, they're good to go, that's not good enough for me. I want to be able to write the strongest offers possible for my buyers and know that my buyers are well into the process and their documentation has been looked at by an underwriter. So those are the basic, fundamental, foundational things that are important to me. Randy, would you add anything to that?
Well, one thing you said is a conditional underwritten pre-approval, very important, like you say. The next thing I would do is always ask, what kind of conditions do we have? Is there anything out of the ordinary or tough to meet? And that's when you know, if he said, oh, everything is standard, then you're good to go. If they say, well, we're not sure about this, then you better let them meet that condition first.
That's good. Thank you. Does that help, Chrissy?
Yes. If the buyer has their own lender, and is that just something you try to talk them out of, or do you qualify them before? Yes. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Talk to the lender, find out what they've done, get a feel. I know not all of this is going to be intuitive right away. But use your gut instinct as much as you can. And yes, I've said to buyers, okay, can you just talk to my lender as well? Can you compare the two? I have done that.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you also as a listing agent that if I'm not comfortable with the lender, you can write into your paperwork in your counteroffer that they also speak to a lender that you recommend. So so again, that's something that you can think about doing. And but for the buyer, as representing a buyer, I definitely I'm very much involved in that lender process as much as I can be. And I'm going to say the times that I've had it go sideways are typically, like I said, when a buyer chooses to not take my advice. So it happens, and as much as you can, try to get them to at least talk to one of the lenders that you're comfortable with. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions for Creighton? Denise, do you have a question? Was this helpful, you guys?
That was great.
Very helpful.
All right. Well, Creighton, thank you. Thank you so much for being willing to be with us today. Was there anything that you wanted to say, in closing?
Just basically, I mean, I'm always available. And, you know, even if, you know, let's say I'm not even the lender on the transaction, and you have questions, advice on what's going on, I'm happy to answer, text, email, call me. So, yeah,
Awesome.
408-410-4422. I'm here to help. And, yeah, that
Thank you
basically
so
covers it.
much.
Thank
And
you.
we had I think at one point we had like 15 or so people on our Zoom. So hopefully you get some new agents that are in touch with you from this. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, you
Bye-bye.
guys. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Chill.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Creighton.
Bye.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.